Right then, back with episode 13 now of the Midnight Pod, and you'll notice it's the first episode ever with two guests. Probably not the last episode ever with two guests, but it means my neck gets less strained fucking recording these things. And we're back with three angles as well. And again, like, I guess this isn't the first like non-purely entrepreneurial one at this point by the time this comes out, but it's probably like one of the more interesting ones. I guess, how do I introduce you guys? I suppose we've got Brucey and Nutty, both Royal Marines, and both, was it last year, rode the fucking Atlantic, which is like shit that people I feel like talk about doing and never actually do, but you've actually done it, which is mad. And myself and Bruce go back, what, like 10 years, more than that actually, back to rowing days, back with
2009 I
YCRC. Yeah, fuck, what's that, like 12 years ago now? Jeez, time flies. And yeah, just fucking keen to get you on, because every time we catch up it's a good chat. There's always some crooked stories about interesting shit you're up to, and it makes my life feel very boring in comparison. But I guess first question as usual, and just to both of you really, you can kind of cut in on each other, play it how you want, but like, well, I suppose, how did you guys, well, you got different stories obviously, but I guess firstly, like, how did you get into the Marines? What was the story there? I guess like a bit of background from both of you, and then maybe a bit of background about the Atlantic Row, because I want to dive into that a lot. And really, how the fuck did that come about, basically?
No, okay, so we'll start
kind
with,
of like three questions in one, really.
We'll start with the first one, is how did I know about the Marines? So my dad was a Marine, so that's how I knew about the Marines. And then I used to be a builder beforehand, before I joined the Marines. I did that for 5 years. I did an apprenticeship, and then I thought, that now's the time. I think, now's the time to join the Marines. So I joined it at 20 years old.
Yeah.
And I haven't really looked back since. It's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
So Brucey, I knew that school wasn't for me when I was about fucking 15 years old, and I was just looking for ways out of fucking Yorkshire, mate.
Yeah.
Find a new and exciting thing to do, and the Marines seemed like, well, I found out about the right place and the right time, and I thought, fuck yeah, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, different path for sure. And like, how long ago was that then for you, for both of you, I suppose?
So I joined Marines and started training in 2013 and finished training in 2013.
Yeah, lit. How about yourself?
It started in 2013 and finished in 2014.
So did you start together? Is that how you met?
No, we didn't start together. He was, I think you were a couple of troops ahead of me. Probably about 3 or 4 troops ahead of me, I think, maybe.
Yeah, me and Nutty never crossed paths until our heavy weapons course in 2015.
Yeah, that was the first time we sort of got to know each other quite well, which was a great course as well. Like, a really, really good course. Anti-tanks. So yeah, it's pretty cool, firing big guns.
This is literally a world I know absolutely nothing about. Well, very little about, compared to like, obviously like e-com, digital marketing and shit. So I feel like my question's going to be so fucking ignorant. But getting into that, because like, I have a mate that we just mentioned off camera previously. I won't say his name, but he tried to get into the, I think, SAS reserves, I think was what it was, and then ultimately failed, even though, super fit and shit. Like, in terms of like army, I mean, I'm going to sound so stupid, but like, where does the Marines like slot in terms of, I guess, the bigger picture of like, that whole world, like army, Marines, SAS? So in the is there like different levels and shit?
Yeah, I'd say so. In the British military, the army basic training is quite short, and a lot of them go to specialise and do other things after they finish their training. And the ones that continue to do a lot longer infantry training, they're the better ones. And the Royal Marines basic training is 32 weeks long, and it's not easy.
Yeah. It's physically demanding, I'd say, and mental robustness as well helps.
Yeah.
I'd say the Marines are one of the better outfits within the British military.
I'd say so, yeah.
And how long did it take you to like get in? Is it a case of like, say I wanted to join the Marines tomorrow, what's the process basically, and how likely am I to get in, like statistically, and if so, like what do I need to be good at?
So you can first join the Navy, which the Marines is part of the Navy. You can first join the Navy when you're 15 years old and 9 months. And when I was that age, I went into Leeds to the Armed Forces Careers Office. Like the Tuesday after, when it first opened up again after the weekend, I went in there and said I want to join the Marines. And then, so you first have a lot of tests. You have to do like little bits of bullshit, like a physical test at a gym.
Yeah.
Like certain gyms sign up to the Armed Forces recruitment scheme, and you go and do a 2.4k run on a treadmill and some other weird tests. Go and get a medical, and if you were lucky and you're trying to push the process, you could do that within a couple of weeks. Then you do a something called a PRMC, which is a potential Royal Marines course, yeah. And then you go and do that, and that to this day, that's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire life. And then once you've passed that, then you get a date where you start training.
Yeah. And you said it's one of the hardest things you've ever done. Like, obviously we met through rowing. I know you mentioned earlier that was rowing training was hard. Like, how does that training compare to rowing, and like what does that actually entail?
So we did PRMC. It's your first exposure to I don't know, like military style stuff. So when we was rowing, it was always in the gym, and
yeah,
we'd start a training session and finish a few hours later, and you just got absolutely thrashed for about 3 days on the PRMC.
Yeah,
and it's just it's mentally harder, you know, because you've never done anything like that before.
Was that when you were 15 years and 9 months?
No, I was 16 at that point.
Oh, you were 16 at that time, yeah. And in terms of like people that actually get in then, like what's the stats on that? And is this just fitness stuff at this point? Rather than like weaponry stuff or whatever?
Yes, predominantly fitness to begin with, and then you move on to learning about how to use weapons and things like that. I'm getting attacked by a dash hound. I'm getting licked to death.
5 miniature sausage. Okay, oh yeah, Tokyo's back on the pod.
Yeah,
he's either sleepy or crazy, and today he's chosen to be bad. Yeah, fuck. So, do you remember? You said there's over 32 weeks, or is that a separate stage or something?
No, 32 weeks is once you pass the aptitude, like the PRMC.
Yeah. So once you pass
Royal
that,
Marines course, and then once you pass that, you start training, and it's 32 weeks long.
And that's to be like effectively fully qualified, I suppose.
So once you finish those 32 weeks, you get given your green beret.
Yeah.
And then depending on where you go after training, you do different stuff, I guess.
Yeah. And then where are you based at that point?
So me personally, I passed out at the end of 13, and then like a few weeks before Christmas, went on Christmas leave, and then at the start of January I went straight out to Norway.
Yeah.
Which for me just felt like a continuation of training. And I was still flapping, you know, at 32,000 feet. For me that was just a continuation of training, you know, just getting beasted by the lads that you joined the company with, and by the people running the Norway package.
Yeah. And then like day to day, and we're probably going to chop and change between a few things before we get onto like probably the main thing I want to talk about, which is the fucking Atlantic row and stuff around that. So like you're in the Marines, you're 16, probably coming on to 17 at this point. Obviously most people, myself included, I had actually just quit rowing and was fucking, I remember speaking to you about this I think years ago, and I was just like literally in fucking sixth form doing like very standard boring shit. What does like, I suppose, what does like a standard Monday to Friday look like in that situation? But then also like over a year, what does like a year of being in the Marines at that point look like in terms of like training and actually being out? That's a really good question. Being out of like base.
I was in my first year in the Marines. I was really lucky. You know, I got to go away a lot and do a lot of stuff. So I went to Norway. I did mountain and Arctic warfare training package in Norway. Then came back for about a month, and then we went out to the Middle East. And between then I did a mountain training package in the Macedonian Alps in Albania. Then we fucked around a lot in the Middle East and East Africa. And then we came back. But when you ask about day-to-day life in the Royal Marines, depending on how busy the unit is or the troop or whatever, you'll it can go from doing absolutely fuck all, just watching Jeremy Kyle and drinking cups of tea in the grounds. Maybe do the odd range package, go and blast some rounds down range on a fucking Wednesday or something. I don't know. It's so varied, but when there's nothing on, you really get left alone, you know, because lads need to do their own stuff.
It can be 100 miles per hour sometimes. Yeah, feet don't hardly touch the ground, so it can be a lot of sitting around. Yeah, but then make sure we do PT all the time, lots of fizz. Yeah. So yeah, keep yourself fit, and the onus is on you to keep yourself fit.
Oh really?
After you pass out training, yeah.
And then are you living? I guess excuse my ignorance, in like barracks or something, like are you all living together like full time in like a specific place? You're obviously keeping yourself fit. How does that work?
This is within base. Lads can live off base and commute if they want to.
Yeah.
Don't matter where they live, as long as they can fucking turn up at 8 o'clock in the morning, that's sound. But I never saw the point, so I always lived on base, and you have flats, there's like blocks of flats on base, you have 6 dudes in each flat.
Yeah.
It gets pretty wild if you're living on camp. Yeah, some weird stuff happens. Like
high testosterone environment.
Yeah.
And is that like, do you get to choose who you live with? Is it literally a case of like, is it like similar to like fucking school or sixth form, uni, whatever, you get put into like flats just with people?
So when you first pass out of training, you may not know anyone or just the people you're in training with. You pretty much get put where you want to go. But if you know someone and there's a free space in that flat, you can just there's nothing stopping you jumping in there.
Yeah. It's pretty good in that sense.
Yeah, so I guess probably more intense than Brian. Let's keep coming back to that. But like, do you get to the point where you're either really good friends with people or you just want to fucking kill them? I would imagine living with people all the time. I guess it's like boarding school or something, which I never went to.
Yeah, I get it. There's a certain type of person that passes out of Royal Marines training, right? So it's completely diverse, but there's a certain aspect of them that's the same. So it's a really interesting place to live. In my time in the Marines, I've known Michelin star chefs, people that have done fucking serious stints inside prison. Yeah. People with all crazy kinds of weird fucking degrees.
And is it generally people, obviously you were like 17 when you started, is it generally younger lads, or can people join? Well, I guess two-part question. Is it generally younger lads when they start, or can people join at any point? And then secondly... Yo fellas, quick one. First bit of promo for the pod. You may or may not have heard, I released a fucking ecom course a few months ago. Basically spent like 6 months making it because I was in between businesses, as you probably know if you follow my shit. I must say, 12 hours long, it's fucking quality content, especially for the price it's at now. I was going to drop it at like 1,500 quid with some bullshit guru-y webinar and all that rubbish, but as you know, it's not my main thing. I'm working on a new brand right now, very, very fucking much in the trenches, which is why I think it's actually a better course than everything else out there, because it's built on real experience of my brands in the past and my current one. So yeah, long story short, I've dropped it to 299 quid, which is fucking criminal to be honest, because it should be way more expensive than that. I think it's super, super valuable. If you're interested in ecom, you're already in ecom and you wanted to get into ecom, 0 to 1, starting a brand from scratch, then definitely worth investing in. Link is in the bio of this video, or podcast, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever the fuck you're listening or watching, and enjoy the rest of the pod. Is there like certain ranks within the Marines? I mean, of course there probably is, but like how does that look as you get older and progress and so on?
Yeah, see, back when we started training, I think you could be, the oldest you could be to join recruit training was 32 or 31 or something like that. And then like the youngest was 15 years and 9 months. You can apply, that's the application. So when you're 16 you can start training. But yeah, I mean, as you rise through the ranks, you normally, your corporals are normally in their sort of like late 20s to early 30s, and then you get your sergeants that are in their late 30s to going on to 40. So yeah, it takes a while to promote sometimes in specific branches within the Royal Marines, but yeah, got a full spectrum of age.
Interesting.
So you can have some really experienced people. And I remember there was one lad in training who was training with me. He was 31 and he had a high flying job in London, working. I don't know what it was, something to do like banking or something like that.
Yeah.
But he decided to just pack that all in and then join the Royal Marines and go through training.
Yeah, it's a complete lifestyle change.
Yeah, complete lifestyle change.
Yeah,
I think that's what people are looking for. sometimes.
Yeah, geez, it does make my day today sound fucking boring, to be fair, a lot of the time. And then, so like, again, excuse my ignorance, because I'm asking questions because I just literally don't know. Like, so in like a standard year, obviously you've been in like 8 years now, a bit longer, 9 years?
8 years, mate, yeah.
8 years.
8 and a bit, 7 years.
How much time are you, I guess, just in one place, keeping yourself fit, as you said, compared to, I guess, out on, I don't know what the right term is, deployment, a fucking job? What would it be called when you're out doing something specific? And I guess secondly, like, what are those things?
So you can
what sort of things?
Different level. You can be deployed, and you can also go away for training exercises. For example, you can go to America or something like that. And you trained in the Mojave Desert, was it?
Yeah, we did it for a couple of months out there.
Yeah, so you go out there and do a high level of training out there.
Yeah.
But then you can also get deployed on a ship, and that the ship will go somewhere. So yeah.
Yeah, fuck. It doesn't sound like a boring day at the office.
Sure. You can get into a good routine on ships, especially if they're sort of like going. When we joined the aircraft carrier, a brand new aircraft carrier, HMS Queen Elizabeth, went all the way over to Halifax in Canada.
Oh, fuck.
So that's the journey over took a bit of time, and then sort of like you're allowed to go ashore.
Then we pretty much drove down the entire.
Yeah.
We stopped at a load of places on the way down, but we drove all the way down to Florida pretty much. About 30 lads in 5 different, well, they call them soccer mum cars in the States. But we had these things called Dodge Caravans, mate, and they were fast as fuck. And we just road trip down the eastern seaboard. But every so often, like, this wasn't just a fucking holiday, right? We'd just stop at various different military outfits. These were already pre-planned, and we do a bit of training with some various different people over in the States, and then finish up in Florida.
Yeah. And then, so like time split wise between being in the UK and being abroad, then how does that look?
So I've spent almost exactly a third of my days in the Marines outside of the UK, doing various different stuff, and that's not including boat stuff that I've done.
Yeah.
Which is, I just call boat stuff all the time I spent paddling and rowing. Which probably makes up at least another third of the time that I've spent in the Marines.
And do you get like much choice in terms of the sort of things you're doing? It like, is there like certain people that will specialise in certain disciplines? Like,
yeah, you can choose your specialisations. There's quite a vast array of like specialisations within the Royal Marines, and that's how we first met on the anti-tanks course. So anti-tank gunner is one of, I think, 15 different trades you can do within the Royal Marines.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what would some of the other 15 be?
You can have mortarmen, you can have clerks, signallers, vehicle mechanics,
mountain leaders.
That's a really
there's something in the Marines. It's called a REMF, which means a rear echelon motherfucker, right? So say someone joined the Marines and then became a vehicle mechanic or something. They just spend all their time fixing the wagons and they're not really doing much.
Yeah, just putting the SNUS back in the pack.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck. Okay, and then in terms of like, I guess probably what I was trying to partly ask as well, like training compared to being out on, I don't know, is a mission the right term? Like doing specific jobs is, I don't know how to put it really.
Trying to think. How would you put that?
So you call it deployment.
Deployment.
Like you have the winter deployment, so you're going to mountain and Arctic warfare training in Norway or something. That's a deployment. I think any time you spent out of the UK is called a deployment. But I'd say a tour of duty would be something like being in Afghanistan for 8 months or something.
Yeah.
They call that a tour.
And how much of that have you done in different places?
I've never done a tour of duty with any action.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And then coming on to the rowing then, elements of the rowing. So obviously one thing I wanted to get onto was fucking rowing the Atlantic. Obviously we go back from rowing as juniors, which you said was one of the hardest trainings you've ever done, but geez, I don't know how that compares now. But how did that come about then? Was that initially through like stuff you were training on, or just like personal interests outside of day to day, or?
So I finished rowing at York City and joined the Marines, and then I started doing sprint and marathon kayaking.
Yeah.
Ultra distance marathon was what I did. So I started paddling these ultras every few years, and then that's how I met Nutty again after the anti-tanks course actually. So he was always asking me there's a race called the Devizes to Westminster, which starts in Devizes in Wiltshire, and it finishes at Westminster Bridge, which is 125 miles paddled in one hit. In
a kayak.
In a kayak, mate. Yeah.
Yeah.
2-man kayak.
Okay, two or something.
2 men in the kayak, and I think was it. What year did we paddle, Nutty?
2019 we paddled, yeah.
I think it was 17 or 18 where I was chasing the clock, and I spanked in at Windsor about 85 miles in. Like I spanked in hard, there's no way I was gonna. Like I pulled out at Windsor anyway.
Yeah.
Without making any excuses. And in my mind, there was no way I was ever gonna paddle that race again. You know, it's hard, like too hard. Then I went back, joined Lima Company from where I was previously based in Taunton, and I was like, fuck. And he kept asking me, he wants to paddle the Devizes. I'm like, Brucey, when are we next paddling the Devizes? I'm never fucking doing that shit ever again. And he kept asking me. And one night, I think we were in a place called Little Creek in America.
Yeah, here it was, yeah.
Was that Florida or fucking Virginia? Or it was somewhere.
Right, yeah.
It was somewhere
Virginia,
in America.
Yeah.
And then we just got back absolutely fucking blind drunk, and I was like, Bruce, we're paddling Devizes, and I was like, yeah. No dramas, mate. I'll paddle the Devizes with you. And then Nutty was like, yeah, sweet. I woke up in the morning and I was just thinking, fuck, what have I just said yes to? But anyway, if I said I was going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Did you do it together the first time?
So I mean, we paddled in 19, right?
Yeah.
So me and Nutty paddled in 19, and like people train all their lives for this shit, mate, to get a good time in this race. And then Nutty had never even seen one of these sprint and marathon kayaks, which is it's not a kayak like most people are thinking of a kayak. It looks like a rowing boat. It's like a long, streamlined kayak, right? And they're pretty hard to sit in. So Nutty went from with no paddling experience to coming top 10 in international competition on the Devizes to Westminster.
Yeah, it was great.
So yeah, it worked out really nicely. I got my first back once me and Nutty got back in the boat. I got my first back for these kinds of things, and Nutty was really good actually. Turned out, learnt really quick, and we pulled an absolute blinder there.
Yeah, it's good, wasn't it?
So that's 125 miles in a kayak. So how long does that take? Like a good time?
The time me and Nutty did was 20 hours and 2 minutes, which absolutely devastated me because all I wanted to do was pull a sub 20.
Fuck.
But it sounds like it's an excuse, doesn't it? The conditions vary, especially on the Thames. Yeah. And this was a notoriously slow year. So if someone came 9th on another year, that'd be like an 18:30 fucking time. But yeah, fuck, we came 9th and it was 20 hours 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So we unfinished
and
business.
Then as we were climbing up the steps, Brucey looked round to me, and I looked up, and he was like, "We're doing it again next year." And I was like, "Yeah, sound mate, yeah, 100%."
So that was 2019. You did the 2002. Did you do it in 2020 then?
No, mate. We started training for it. So I don't really do full-time training throughout the year. I just do a few paddles a week and just keep myself in the loop. But we started full-time training again in 20, but then COVID happened, so it got called off.
Yeah, and then so doing that sort of thing, is that like supported by being in the Marines? Do they just do they let you just go off and train for that? And how long do you go off and train for that?
Totally. So paddling never used to be, well, it did used to be. Then the Corps got pretty busy with Iraq and Afghanistan, and they didn't have the time to support that. But when you're in the Corps, if you're I don't know, if you're good at boxing or good at rugby, you get pretty much unlimited time to train off as long as you compete with the, I don't know, like the Royal Marines badge on your kit. Yeah. And then paddling started to get a bit like that now. which is nice for me because I fucking love it. But I think it's got more to go. It's got the sport's still redeveloping itself within the core.
Yeah. And did you ever look at rowing again, or was it always?
No, mate. I'm too small to row. You know.
Yeah, true.
I'm not as big as Matty, like height wise.
Yeah, true. Just going back to rowing for context. What's he barking at?
I don't know.
Me and Bruce rowed the double score as juniors, and yeah, national scores 2012 gold, a British record. I think which still stands. Good conditions, I might add, but 9 years later. So yeah, I think I mentioned that like two episodes ago with the fucking Olympic rower sat next to me, which is probably rather embarrassing, but yeah, that's where it all started, I suppose. So training full time for that then, like, what does that look like? Because this is a pretty fucking varied episode already. We've gone from being in the Marines to fucking training full time in a kayak for a 125-mile race. Is that like 8 hours a day?
You do sort of varying lengths of paddles. Well, Brucey has done 2. You've done. This is your 4th Devise to Westminster. You've done now.
I've started 5 and finished 4, which is slightly embarrassing.
Started 5, finished 4. So yeah, it's the training camp's been different every year, hasn't it? But I've only done the training. Oh no, I've done the training camp twice actually.
So typically we'll do let's say a strength session in the morning. We'll do a sprint session in the morning. We'll wrap a few bungees and like resistance training in the morning. We'll wrap something around the bottom of the boat to cause a bit of drag.
Yeah.
Do a few intervals. Do an interval training session, like some sprints. Then in the afternoon we maybe paddle between 20 and 30 miles down the river.
And where are you training? Like, where are you based out from doing this?
And it varies all over the Upper Thames. So a lot of the time we're based out of RAF Benson near Oxford. Sometimes around Windsor.
Yeah.
And we move. So say we start the training camp at Benson. So it's some of the guys on the training camp, this is their first time they've seen the course, you know. And when it's pitch black at night and you've been paddling for 10 hours.
Right, I just have to pause quickly there because this naughty little dog started barking at his own reflection. Made us all think there was a fucking ghost in here again, which he seems to think every day. But yeah, so rowing, kayaking, just on like, so it takes you roughly 20 hours, obviously just below 20 is what you're aiming for. Are you sleeping in that period? Or no, you're literally doing that?
No, you're just paddling non-stop. And when you so everything counts towards the time. So there's 77 portages on the course, which is mainly on the canal, where you grab the boat and run around a lock gate.
77?
Yeah, the longest of which is a mile long.
Fucking hell, so you're running for a mile with a boat.
Like running fast, like you got the boat on your shoulders sprinting a mile.
Yeah,
like
you're hanging around like really going for it.
It's 20 hours flat out fucking moving, mate.
Yeah.
As our coach always used to remind us when we were hanging around, he'd be like, Westminster's that way, chaps. Yeah, fucking cheers, Rob. But he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. Old Rob King.
Fucking hell, so how do you think that compares to doing a 2k row back in the day, which takes 6 or 7 minutes as a junior? 20 hours seems quite a bit more. But obviously the intensity might be different, but is it way harder? Obviously, maybe for different reasons.
You just can't compare the two. That 2k row test when we were rowing as juniors is disgustingly hard. And also, you remember it as hard as. So it's a cumulative effect of what has happened before you do this. It's how you'll find the next thing, right? So you've done all this other stuff and it's all been pretty hard. So the next thing is just one more thing.
Yeah.
But when we used to row, I'd never experienced anything really that difficult at all. And I just remember rowing on the rowing machine at York City Rowing Club was one of the worst things I've ever done in my life, mate.
Yeah, jeez. 5k test as a junior is pretty fucked. But yeah, I want to come on to what sounds like even fucking harder is, I guess in a nutshell, you rowed the Atlantic Ocean recently. Was it 4 of you? So you 2 and 2 other guys?
Yeah, so we're both good friends with a guy called Junior McElhinney, who was he got blown up in Afghanistan, and he started his process of recovery afterwards, inside and outside of the Corps. And we bumped into him by chance at someone's birthday party, which we crashed actually to try and get, who'd also rowed an ocean to get some ocean rowing advice. And one of the original four we'd had just dropped out. So we met Junior there, and yeah, and he was really keen to row the ocean with us.
So how was that conversation even start? So did it come about by speaking to this guy, or were you just thinking previously, yeah, I fancy rowing the fucking Atlantic Ocean, which obviously to 99.999% of society just sounds ludicrous.
It's like, where do you start with something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, yeah, we asked Junior, and he was more than up for it, because he'd heard his friend whose birthday it was had spoken about it a lot, and he liked it, and then he's heard about ocean rowing.
Yeah.
And he likes the sound of it, so it was kind of easy just to be like, do you want to do it? Yeah, do you want to do it with us?
to go back a bit. This was just after me and Nutty had finished. There's a guy called Mick Dawson who's a world famous ocean rower, and he's done a lot harder ocean rowings in the Mid Atlantic, like crossings, than what me and Nutty had done. And then so he runs a foundation called the Cockleshell Endeavor, which it supports veterans wounded physically or otherwise to do something life-changing, to turn their lives around. And he'd already planned and paid for these two guys, but one of them was suffering from strokes at the time, and his missus rung Mick and said, there's no way I can let this guy row down the Yukon or paddle down the Yukon. And so everything had already been done, so he approached the the Royal Marine Marathon Paddling Network and says, is there anyone that wants to paddle down the Yukon? And my mate Joe Maynard recommended me for it, and he was like, Brucey, do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, sound.
Down the Yukon, sorry.
The Yukon River, so in the Canadian Yukon Territory, just east of Alaska. So the race itself is 444 miles long. Starts in Whitehorse in the Yukon Territory and finishes in Dawson City, right next to the Canadian-Alaskan border. So
this is a kayak race similar to the one we spoke about previously?
Yeah, it's another ultra-distance kayak race, which is 444 miles, 715 kilometres long, which we did in 67 hours. And that taught me a lot about humility and... I could talk about... The dude I was paddling with was called Neil Marshall, and I could... I don't know where to start with that shit. But there's a lot of lessons that I learned along the way.
So we were just speaking about 125 miles, so this one was 400 plus miles.
Yeah, that's right.
How long did you train for that prior to doing that? And was that 67 hours without sleep or what? Like most people can even do an hour.
We stopped for 6 hours, 185 miles in, which everyone has to do, like compulsorily stop for 6 hours in. What's that, almost 3 days? We stopped for 6 hours.
Yeah, fuck me.
But there's so much other shit I could tell you about that. If you don't mind me just gobbing off for a second.
Yeah, definitely.
So you paddle, the first checkpoint's 54 miles in, right? There's a plane sailing down the river to, I think it's called Policeman's Point, just before somewhere called Lake Labarge, if that means anything to anyone that's listening. And then once you get 54 miles in, you're faced with a lake that's 36 miles long. And typically it's like a nice fucking calm lake, and it's quite a big, like fucking Loch Ness or something. Think about that.
Pierre Point.
And we had a pretty strong headwind with like 2 foot waves smashing over us faces in the kayak. And I was just thinking, all I thought was, shit, let's just get to the other end of this 36 miles and it'll be plain sailing again. So I just put my head down and fucking paddled, mate. And then night started falling. It doesn't get dark there because it's that far north where the Yukon is. We did it in the middle of summer, but it still gets pretty fucking cold. And so, what did it take us to do 36 fucking miles? I don't know, like 5 hours or something. By the time we got to the end of that, I'd just been non-stop paddling, like forgetting about my drills. Every hour I used to stop and grab a handful of sweets or something and just fucking eat something, mate. No, anyway, we got to the other end of that, and it was the middle of the night to the second checkpoint. And I was starting to go down with... I never suffered hypothermia before, but I consider this pretty serious fucking hypothermia with nothing to compare it to. Anyway, I was almost fucking comatose by it. As soon as I stopped paddling, I started going down. Neil dragged me out to the check. Every checkpoint has like an oil drum fire and some race officials on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, fuck me. This was what, 80, 90 miles into a 185 mile leg. And Neil dragged me out of the boat and sat me down by this fire and gave me some fucking warm to drink. Like, he saved the race, mate. Without him, I would have been fucked. And he was the one I was meant to be looking. I was pretty much the guarantee to get him to the other end of that course. But yeah.
What sort of stuff are you wearing in this? If you're getting that cold, was it wet or was it just the waves?
I don't know, man. We didn't carry a dry suit, mate, which would have probably fucking saved us, but no one does. You can take any Gore-Tex, any paddling kit you want in the world. When the waves are washing over the boat and smashing into you, there's no spray deck and there's no fucking kit that'll keep you dry. And yeah, it gets pretty wet and cold out there.
Fuck. Okay, and then do you find so obviously 67-hour race, 6-hour break effectively. Do you just go into like a state of hypnosis? Like how hard does it actually feel, or is it more?
When you're doing something of that length, I wouldn't even say it's an emotional roller coaster. How the fuck do you describe that? It's for sure it's a roller coaster. You go through the fatigue stage about fucking 50 miles in, and then it all becomes mental. You know, your body's already given all it can do before you think, fuck, it's time to stop. So after I got back in the boat after that second checkpoint, I actually felt really good. I felt strong, like fully good to go again for another time. Then you start going through then the mental fatigue stage, and then you get through that. Then you're hallucinating. Then you just kind of go up and down between weird bursts of mental energy and mental fucking fatigue. And there's no real way to describe it to someone that hasn't actually been in that hole, mate, and seen what it's like or felt what it's like.
Fuck, I might have to get myself to the Yukon. And how long were you training for this and like devoting to this event specifically?
So I didn't, because it was an expedition on a plate, and last minute everything was already paid for. Everything was good to go. So I just finished the devices to Westminster and went out there to the Yukon 3 weeks later. And I usually only try and do one event like this a year. And I really fucked my rotator cuff in my shoulder for like 2 years afterwards.
Fuck it, okay.
I think you couldn't exactly turn the Yukon down.
No, you can't.
No matter where you are in life, can you? Yeah, I was like, fuck, I'm going there and doing that. There's 3
different races as well, isn't there? So you've got the 444, you got the 1,000,
the River
and then you've got the 2,000 as well.
Yeah. So the 2,000's only just opened up.
Yeah. Wait, 2,000 what? 2,000 miles. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
You're gonna do that?
These races vary. The intensity. I haven't done longer than the River Quest, but anyone that's done the 1,000, you have to stop for 6 hours every 24 hours. Like the tracker has to stop. So you're sleeping at least 6 hours in every 24-hour period. So it's less intense, but it's much longer. Well, it's over double the length.
Yeah. I remember you coming back and saying to me that it's such wilderness out there. It was so remote where you were going down. It was quite incredible. I thought I saw you showed me the pictures and things like that, and I was like, you know what, it's a bit of me that.
Yeah, fuck.
I made a promise to Nutty after I got back from that me and him are going to go and paddle the 1,000 together.
Yeah.
At some point in life.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, we'll get there.
And like, how much harder than the Westminster race? Obviously, being like more than 3 times the length, roughly 3 times the length, or is it more just? It's a mental challenge.
It's a really hard one to answer because they're both radically different events. So the DW, as it's known, Devices to Westminster, is most of that's at night because it's done at Easter weekend, and it's just miserable paddling on the canal for 54 miles. Then you get to Reading, then you paddle down the Thames at night, and it's just cold and miserable. But in the Yukon territory, fuck, it's just beautiful all the time. It never gets dark. It's just a different beast, man. It's longer, but you can't really compare the two.
Yeah.
I always relate everything back to the devices.
Jesus.
Because we weren't paddling the Yukon for time either, but we did come third. But that was a happy accident. And we got beaten to the line for second place, 100 metres from the fucking finish line, which broke my heart.
Fucking hell. Over a race of that length.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake.
But on the devices, I always take that really seriously and
you're gonna
train hard, and I try to save seconds. It's a long race, but seconds matter, you know. If you can save fucking seconds at every fucking opportunity, it all adds up at the end.
You have a support team that follows you all the way down as well. So at certain points, they'll replenish your water, put electrolytes in your water and things like that. They'll also feed you as well. Like they give you food, like they give it to you like that. Straight.
What sort of food?
Just anything high, like flapjack, for example, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just get as much as you can down you, and carry on going.
Yeah, fucking hell. And then I guess that brings me nicely back to, you've gone from this 150, whatever the Westminster was, 150 miles, right? So 125 to a longer one in the Yukon, and then you rode the fucking Atlantic, which is what, 4,500 miles?
Yeah. So after I came back from Canada, the guy called Mick Dawson, right, that I was on about earlier, he's running the Cockleshell Endeavor. And it worked really well for me and Neil, because Neil's in his 50s and he's been through a lot of shit in his time, which is another fucking story in itself. And so yeah, it just worked really nicely for both me and him to have one serving member of the military and one former member of the military in the boat together. So then the idea of the Cockleshell Endeavor changed. Instead of just doing something for the veterans, it was now something where the people that are still serving can do something like this with some of the members of the military that have whatever's happened to them. Yeah, so anyway, it works nicely for both of us. And then, anyway, yeah, something else. We were on the piss with Mick. Well, I used to start drinking with Mick Dawson down in Brighton every so often. And one night we were on the piss, and it was because he's well-established ocean rides and a lot longer, harder crossings than what we did. He was like, Bruce, how do you feel about rowing the Atlantic? And I was like, yeah, sounds fucking... Yeah, why wouldn't I want to do that?
And why not?
So after that, I got home about 3 days later, got a voicemail from Mick Dawson. I missed the phone call. And he was like, yeah, Bruce, you still want to row the Atlantic? And I naively thought that it'd be the same as the Yukon, you know? Like, everything would be sorted, it'd be an expedition on a plate again. Like a dream come true, but it wasn't, because he's a busy guy. And we didn't really... He supported us a little bit, gave us some contacts and whatnot. But yeah, it was mainly down to me and Nutty. So me and Nutty were just two... So the first person I approached was Nutty. I was like, Nutty, how do you feel like rowing an ocean?
I was like, yeah, 100%.
No doubt.
I'm in, yeah.
Yeah. And then from there...
We were just two guys living in the flats at work with an idea, mate. Shit. So we cut corners everywhere we could, and we did it as cheaply as we possibly could. Because the average fucking price of someone that rows the ocean runs into 100k plus.
Really?
Yeah. And we just didn't have that fucking money to spare, mate. In the end, our cost was about 34k.
Like boat costs or what? Like, where would 100k plus?
Yeah, so everyone enters. I don't know if you know. I was probably trying to explain this a bit for the pod. There's something called the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge, right? Which runs from La Gomera to Antigua. The entry fee to that race alone, which comes with nothing, is £24,000, and that's just your ticket to enter the event. And then if you want to be competitive, you buy a boat which costs about £40,000, which you can sell again afterwards. And then the fucking prices soon start adding up.
Because you got your food on top of that. You get all your kit that you're wearing, the shipping, for example. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts in it to get the boat to the start line.
Yeah, I wouldn't even think about it, to be fair. And then, so I guess two questions again. How did you fund that, firstly? And then what was the process from figuring out it was going to cost a load to do it to actually getting to the starting line, I suppose? Two very kind of different questions, but what was the general process from like, fuck, we're doing this, to
So the first
actually
thing,
leaving?
The first thing we approached once we had the crew nailed down, which wasn't actually the crew that we rowed with. So we was helping out two Royal Marines veterans to row the ocean. We first approached the Royal Marines charity, who gave us £10,000, which was amazing. We were just two dudes sitting in the grot with an idea, and they gave us 10k. Fortunately, we gave them 20k back at the end, which was nice. I genuinely didn't think that was going to happen. So when we got to the start line, we'd only just covered the expedition costs. But we made then we were two dudes sitting in the grot with an idea and 10k, and we were like, shit, what can we do? What can we do right now? So the rations, we used Arctic rations, which are the dehydrated rations, which for whoever's listening, these are essentially pot noodles in a bag. So you just add water to them, and then you have like a spag bowl or a fucking curry or whatever, mashed potato, like smash sauce. Or something. Yeah.
Noodles and black bean sauce.
That was a fucking nightmare. So we fucked up there, but we didn't. It was an accident. So first we did went down to stores, and me and Nutty were like, how long do you reckon this fucking event's going to take? And I was like, I don't fucking know. So I was like, shit, let's get 90 days per man.
Then it turned up, and it was a I think it was 2 pallets worth of rations in boxes.
Those boxes
stacked about 6.5 feet high. And we were like, the colour sergeant was just like, you've got a load of rations here, what do you want to do with them? And we were like, right, cool. So we squirreled them away somewhere.
Jeez. And then, I should go on.
So we did what we could do immediately, which was everything we can get for free from work, which included fucking RYA courses up to the level of Ocean Master, which was a fucking grizz. Because I don't know about Marines, they're not that intellectually minded. So we were doing our Ocean Masters. And then, to go back to the fundraising. We had about 9 months to raise another 20k. And it was fucking heartbreaking, mate. We spent about 3 months of those 9 months. We were always doing a lot. But the first 3 months we were doing a lot and not producing anything, mate. Like we were doing the wrong stuff, but we started to learn some lessons after that. And fuck, it started to come in little and often. Like a lot of this shit, we'd just meet someone in a pub and they'd be like, yeah, I've got a mate that can help you out. Yeah. Then we go to some fucking dude's business, potentially getting like 5k off him or something. Like, nah, sorry, I can't do anything. But I've got someone else that can help you out. And after about a month of that, you're chasing down, I don't know, loads of different leads. All of them you have to pursue with 100% enthusiasm because you don't know if they're going to be the one. Yeah. And it's a fucking heartbreaking.
It's a good process though. It's a great process to go through. But I learned a lot, like going through that, and even the way you talk to people, how you approach people and asking them for something. But you've got to, the whole process behind it is really interesting, the way you got to do it. But yeah, I'm trying to.
Like we was getting invited to, so do you remember Salcombe Brewery?
Yes, I do. Yeah,
we got invited there, and it was like a full-on fucking. This was like probably the most actual professionally appearing meeting we attended. It was like some fucking boardroom or something. If you imagine The Apprentice, it was like a long old table, and me and Nutty was sitting on one side trying to present our pitch to the guy on the other side, which we did actually prepare a little bit for that one. And there was some little bitch just in the corner like, oh, do you want a drink? And I was like, yeah, can I take a pint of the Salcombe Gold? Which is one of the ales.
Which is really nice.
And then the guy at the table was like, what the fuck? He's on about water, you cunts.
Did you get that? Did you get the pint?
No, yeah, we did, and then it turned out the guy across the table used to be in the military, so we spent loads of time just chewing the fat with him, mate. It wasn't quite the formal fucking presentation.
It's not what he was expecting, I don't think, but as soon as we sort of like, that goes down how to sort of like break the ice with someone, I guess, isn't? And as soon as you could level with him, he was just like, do you know what, this is actually quite interesting. And he actually sent us a few emails to help us along with how we get a presentation together and how we would come across if we were ever to do something like that again. But it went quite far, it went to the top with this guy, who the owner of the because this bloke owns multiple businesses, and it went to the top of the CEO, and he just couldn't do it this time. But it went that far.
He did help us out with a lot of other contacts and that.
Yeah,
which did lead on to other things.
Yeah, but I think what really started to help, well, the first sort of like real thing that happened was when we did an event at the local pub to where the barracks is. So that was the turning point for raising like quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did a great event at Whitethorn in Shaw Prior. The bloke who owns it is a guy called Mike from Mad Dog McRae, and so he's a local. He's quite an international known singer actually. He does Irish folk music. He's absolutely brilliant. And he was mega on side with us, and he just he was like, yeah, do you know what? You can use the whole of the outside area for your event, and it was nice to have someone so on side. And then Brucey went and got 3 kegs from Dartmoor Brewery for free, a JL Ale, and we sold all of them. Well, they went down pretty fast. Yeah, but
this is really funny actually. This is when we were still cuffing it. So we had this event, and one of our mates is he hunts deer, right? So his mates were a lot of farmers around Dartmoor and that, and we had back on camp. There's freezers worth of venison if you go to the outliers. The showers for people that live off camp. There's like 3 fucking deer carcasses hung up in there, mate. So we were selling venison.
The local Sodexo
we were selling venison steaks. Like, how much do you reckon these cost? I don't know, £5 each. We were selling fucking venison steaks.
That's one way to do it.
Went down to Booker's as well, didn't we? And got a load of like deluxe burgers and things like that. And then there was a barbecue outside, and we got a couple of lads from 4-2. A lot of lads were away at the time, but there was a few sort of like hanging around in the accommodation. We didn't know them. We didn't know them from Adam, but we was like, come up, and if you can cook for us all evening, you can have as many pints as you want. So yeah, that worked out really well. They were really handy actually. Just for cooking all evening. Yeah. And just selling the burgers and all that. And then we did a good raffle as well. We had some good raffle prizes. Yeah, that was a really, really good event. And it was fun
by
for
that
everyone.
point, we were on about 15k. And I reckon, what did we make? About 2,800 quid that night?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
But it wasn't that was the time, at that moment, I learned the lesson that publicity is just as important as fundraising, right? Because it leads to more fundraising. So I don't know. After that, it was a real turning point for our campaign.
Yeah.
And then, so when was this relative to when you actually set off? Then, just to give context.
September. We set off in December
of 2019, right?
We set off in 2020 and finished in 21.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Was it last year? All right. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, I left on the 5th of December.
So, it was 9 months total fundraising then, or different?
So we got fucked around lots. So we was originally going to row across the Pacific, halfway across the Pacific from San Fran to Hawaii, because we know one of the guys that ran the event, and we were going to get free entry into the Great Pacific Race, which is similar to the TWAC but a lot more smaller scale. And then we couldn't get to America because of COVID, so we spent about a month fucking, I don't know, like consoling ourselves, thinking, this is shit, what are we going to do now?
A bit deflating, wasn't it?
And I was like, shit, we'll just row the Atlantic. And it was like, it costs 24k to enter that race. I'm like, fuck that. So we just turned up in Gran Canaria and then rowed to Barbados, like independently, if you know what I mean. Which leads on to another thing. Now we start an event this year called Mission Atlantic.
Wait, so fuck. Coming back to the row then. So you didn't end up actually paying the 24k to do this event that you didn't originally plan to enter?
No, the whole event cost about 32k in total.
And it was completely like made up effectively. It was your own row rather than entering an event that you planned to enter previously.
So we did a lot of, we had the good help of we found out a good dude called Chris Martin. A lot of ocean rowers, they love helping ocean rowers, right? Because it's quite a small group of people.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So we had a lot of advice from a lot of really interesting people, which then led on to we hired a boat from Chris Martin.
And
who owns a company called New Ocean Wave, and that's basically he just facilitates people's rows.
Yeah.
He's an ocean rowing consultant.
Yeah.
Which is an extremely niche fucking market.
You don't know many of them, do you?
Well, he has a day job as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So people listening are now, are going to want to hear about the actual row then itself, because leading up to it sounds like a fucking journey in itself. But so you got the boat, you know what you're doing, you've trained, etc., etc. You've had this ocean rowing consultant help you get to that point. So you started in Gran Canaria.
Yes, mate.
Like, how does that even? You literally get in the boat and start fucking rowing to Barbados, right? Which is what? It was about 4,500 miles. Is that right?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely what we did. The day before, we were driving around a bit and went to a place called Mas Palomas, which is it's like some weird gay holiday spot in Gran Canaria. No, it actually is for gay people, right? Yeah. It's like a gay fucking resort there. So we went to the place. It's the nearest biggest town to where we set off from.
Yeah.
So we went there. We went to the police station, and we're queuing up for about an hour, thinking we want to sign our passports out, because the dock we were in, they didn't. So if we went up to Las Palmas, the capital, if we were left from there, then you can stamp your passport out. And we went there, and got absolutely mugged off to the high port. And we were like, well, yeah, fuck that. So we actually did just get in our boat and start rowing towards Barbados. we never officially left the EU, mate.
No, we didn't, did we? Wasn't too much of an issue the other side, but we had to fly out to Gran Canaria in November because we went into another lockdown then, and we were with the Conservative MP for, where was it?
Hedge End and Eastleigh, mate.
Yeah, Eastleigh. So
because
he came to see us actually, because we've got really good friends with Janet, who owns a pub in Hamble, which is where we kept the boat near Southampton, and she's quite a well-connected woman. And we did another event there. It was a high ticket event, sit down meal, shirt and tie, that sort of thing. So and that went really well. A good raffle at the end. But she's got a lot of fingers in a lot of pies, and she knows the MP for the area, and she said, come down and speak to these guys, because we're all there, all four of us, myself, Brucey, Will, who's the other rower, and Junior, the two veterans, Will and Junior. And he came down and spoke to us, and really got on well with us. And then he did a shout out in Parliament for us.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty lit.
I don't know where I was going with it, to be quite honest with you.
So we were back in the Conservative Club in Hedge End.
That's right, yeah.
This is days before the impending lockdown in November, the second lockdown. And he was like, we were on the fucking loudspeaker phone with Matt Hancock at the time, which was the Secretary of Health or some shit.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly what
that come about.
Because we were chatting with Paul about how what's going to happen. Is it going to impact our row? We were just on the piss. It was no serious conversation, right? And it was like, hold on a second, just let me check. So we got on. He's just like, yep. And then Matt Hancock was like, guys, what the fuck? You need to get out of here pronto. So we flew out the next day with like 12 hours notice, and lockdown did come into enforce like 48 hours later. So we all flew out to Gran Canaria. And one of our mates towed the boat up to Freight International in Newark and sent it to Gran Canaria. So we had 2 or 3 weeks in Gran Canaria with no boat, just on the piss. Yeah. until the boat was like, there's nothing we could do to prepare.
Yeah. So you're just on the piss
before
you rode the Atlantic.
We prepared the space in the marina, like we booked the space in the marina, and that's literally all we could do before the boat came off the fucking shipping container, mate.
Jesus Christ, that is mad. So how big are these boats then? For anyone listening or watching?
7 meters.
And so 21 feet long, how wide?
Probably
1.2 meters.
6 foot, maybe. 6 foot wide. At its widest part.
So kind of like maybe.
No, not even, mate. Because you'd lie on the boat, and I'd say I think
about the size of like.
I remember the technical.
About the size like a people carrier car, maybe a bit bigger. Like roughly,
that way,
roughly. And there's 4 of you. And in terms of like sleeping / sit, like describe the space.
It's tight, mate. Really, really tight.
So is it like a cabin at either end, or like?
Yeah.
What's it like?
Yeah, there's a cabin at the front, and there's a cabin at the rear. The cabin at the front follows the line of the boat like that, and it's extremely sort of like you're sort of like sat in there like that, and it's extremely tight. Your shoulders are sort of rolled up.
So for people that are listening and not watching Nutty's demonstration, it's like there's a little tube that goes underneath. It goes through the hull of the boat, and the people that are rowing, the sliders go on top, so you're sleeping down the bottom of the boat. So it's like a little coffin in the bow cabin. The stern cabin is a lot more spacious, and we used to move house every 5 days on the road with swap ends.
Yeah, that's...
So you in like pairs swapping ends or what?
So yeah, we rowed 3 hours on, 3 hours off. 2 people rowing and 2 people resting. So we were rowing 12 hours of the day.
And is this 2 oars each, so like sculling, or is this like rowing? Is it like one each? Yeah, sculling.
You have one in each hand, mate. Yeah.
And in terms of your arse, you're sat. So is it? Obviously you start facing the same way, but it's not like rowing when we used to do with slide. Does that have sliders? Or
Yeah, sliders.
It does have sliders.
It's just the same as sculling, but you're lucky to reach full slide because the boat's waving around all over the place.
You're not doing a half slide fucking routine. Get your catches in on time and shit. Yeah, fuck. And then, how long did it take in total before we come on to
49 days and 19 hours and 45 minutes or something.
Right, yeah.
Not that anyone's counting, jeez. And do you think...
Yeah, right.
Was that harder than the Yukon race?
No, the Yukon was the Yukon's different because it took less than 3 days, and it was intense. It was non-stop paddling. The row's different. It's mentally challenging because you're just stuck in that boat for 7 weeks, just rowing across the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
And the conditions are a lot worse on the Atlantic, and you don't know what's going to happen the next few days. The Yukon's just challenging. It's just down to you if you want to paddle or stop. That's the hard thing about it. In the ocean row, you never think about stopping because you're still in the middle of the fucking ocean.
Yeah, it doesn't really come across your mind something like that. You've got to keep going. There's no. Yeah, you've just got to keep rowing.
Yeah,
it's a bit like Groundhog Day, sort of like get up, row, do a bit of cooking just before you go to sleep, hand out everyone's food, then go to sleep, and then get up and do the same again.
Do you sleep well? Do you actually manage to sleep?
There's some strange dreams on that boat, like very, very strange, very lucid dreams. It's a bit weird.
3 hour slots as well. And how long did you spend in that boat as a crew together prior to actually setting off for 49 days?
In total, as a crew, well, 5 hours maximum.
5 hours.
So me and Nutty and Will, we were lucky enough to all have the time off. So mine and Nutty's summer leave, and Will was free as well. We delivered someone's rowing boat to them in Copenhagen, so we rowed across the North Sea and then through the Ida Canal and through the Baltic Sea to Copenhagen, which was just like a summer holiday. But me and Will and Nutty had been in the boat together. All the training we'd done with Junior, who turned out to be one of the strongest rowers on the boat. We did a couple of hours training on flat water within the breakwater of Plymouth Harbour, and that was it.
Fucking hell. So, I mean, there's so many things I'm sure people would love to know, and I'm going to ask. Were you scared setting off? Like, was it nerve-wracking, or was it literally just like, fuck it, we're going to ride the Atlantic and...
When the moment we set off,
how did it feel?
Me and Nutty were just laughing hysterically at each other, like we couldn't believe that.
We were just like, we're here. We've done, we're actually setting off. All these times we spent in the accommodation block, tapping away on the computer, all those sleepless nights, thinking, is it going to happen? We were there, and it was just such a euphoric feeling. And sorry to interject, but yeah, it was a great feeling.
It was short-lived. One of the biggest storms we hit on the whole row was still within sight of the Canary Islands, man.
Tell him about the fishermen, mate.
Yeah, mate. So we was leaving. We were talking with many experienced ocean rowers, 2 world-renowned weather routers. One of which was doing us a favour, weather routing for us for the whole crossing. And everyone was like, "Yeah, you've got like a 36-hour window." I mean, like shit. Yeah, we'll set off at 8 o'clock tomorrow. And everyone else was, not just me, it's only because me and everyone was like, yeah, we'll set off at 8 o'clock tomorrow. And then I was walking down the jetty to do some final checks on the boat before we actually set off. And there was a fisherman walking down like some fucking 70-year-old fisherman coming off his boat. And he was like, so when are you setting off? And I was like, yeah, tomorrow. And I was like, oh, I wouldn't do that. And I thought, what the fuck do you know you can't? And then shit, yeah, he was right.
What,
Right
because
into a storm.
Right into a storm? Fuck.
Yeah.
All the projections we were looking at, everything, mate, it was perfect time to sit off. But I don't know how the fuck he knew that it wasn't, mate.
Wait, he just knew.
He just knew, mate.
Experience-wise,
Yeah.
Bones probably didn't.
So yeah, we almost got washed up onto the coast of El Hierro, which is one of the Canary Islands. Like we were rowing hard to get past it, and there was like waves smashing over the boat, and
The wind was insane, wasn't it?
at that point we were doing 2 on 2 off, so we were rowing 2 hours, sleeping 2 hours. We were messing around so long on the changeovers. At that point, we all made the decision to change to 3 on 3 off, just because the changeovers were taking too long and all the fucking water was coming into the cabins and it was all going to fucking shit. I'm like, yeah, this is a fucking disaster. So let's cut down on the changeovers.
Yeah, Jesus. So how big, like, how big were the waves in a storm like that? I mean, we'll probably come on to some other storms, but
they weren't that big because they were big, but they weren't that big, but they were rough. So when you're out in the middle of the ocean, you have like big lines of swell, and it gets pretty fucking big. But if it's not too windy, it's pretty sound. You know, the boat just goes up and down over them. But when the waves are all coming around the island, the frequency of the waves and the like the choppiness of the waves really increases.
Yeah.
So it was really choppy, fucking horrible water to row in. And in fact, it sounds horrible. It was shit at the time, but it was a blessing because in those first few days, the boat proved itself to us, and we proved ourselves to each other, and it gave us a real sense of comfort that we knew when we were land was thousands of miles away on either side, we could deal with it because we dealt with it when land was still in sight.
yeah, fuck. That must be a weird feeling. I think you mentioned to me before. You were like, I don't know if it was a few hours or a few days in that you thought like, I think you could still see land. When were you telling me this? And you were like, fuck, should we just row back? When was that?
Yeah, nah. Everyone fought it, and it's only when we got out like a few days into the ocean, everything calmed down a bit, that we started telling each other. So we set up in Gran Canaria, right? And there's several other islands a bit further west, the way we were heading. And we were that close to them, like you could see cars driving around the fucking mountains on them. And I was thinking all the time, everyone was thinking it. It's like, shit, we could just pull in here, reset for a few days. We're still rowing from the Canaries to the Caribbean, right? It doesn't fucking matter if we pull in here.
But
and yeah, no
one
one said it because I don't know, we're all proud fucking men. No, yeah, it was like, this is fucking nothing. We're gonna row the ocean, right?
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah, we got a few days out when I was on shift with Nutty, and I was like, Nutty, it might sound a bit funny, but I would have pulled in those. And I was like, yeah.
I said to him, I could see all those like twinkling lights in the distance, and I was like, God, I bet it's nice in there. I bet there's a bottle of wine in there I could sink right now, like.
Cozy.
Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah, geez. So, like, did you, obviously on that kind of general topic, how hard, like, when was the hardest point, like, mentally? Obviously, I imagine, well, I suppose, how hard was it physically, but I imagine it was a lot harder mentally. Is that right?
Physically, it was challenging. Just because the body starts to break down after a while. There's no way between 4 of us we could have packed enough food on the boat to maintain what would you fucking call it, a calorific equilibrium. Like, we were in a huge calorific deficit, like to the tune of thousands per day. So say, like, I don't know, like 10 days in, before the row we got pretty fucking fat on purpose. It's like fat, fit, right? Like robust. Like 10 days in, I had like some weird fucking pregnancy belly. Like, all my skin was really floppy, and I had no.
It was goffing.
It was fucking disgusting. I was thinking to myself, shit, I better get rid of this all the time. By the time I get to Barbados, I'm never going to be able to trap when I get over there. And then,
Number one priority.
yeah.
So did you lose weight? Really, like, noticeably?
No, but
quick?
it's not just like any. I don't know what you call it. Wounds. Anything bad that happens to you just doesn't fucking heal up, mate. like shit. Will had a really, when you the arse is the biggest problem on the row.
And
every time you come off shift, you have to wipe down everything that has friction on it with a baby wipe, right, to get all the salt out. Because when it gets wet with salt water, waves are smashing over the boat sometimes. Then when you get in the cabin and you start to dry out a bit, you have to wipe all the salt off, otherwise it crystallises. And then when you go back out and it has friction again, it just tears the skin apart. And whether it started off with bad drills or whether it started off just because he was disposed that way, like Will's arse, it was fucked, mate. It looked like he just sat on a fucking landmine. Like it was
deep
bad.
craters in it. Like you could fit an earbud into these craters that he had on his backside, on his cheeks, and they were raw, like red
Jesus.
raw. I was like, mate,
The one red was it was like a fucking open wound to the whole of his fucking arse, mate.
yeah.
It was like bleeding, like disgustingly raw, mate.
Yeah, Junior, bless him, he was putting iodine in each one, like just to try and stop any infection or anything like that, and then patching it up. Yeah.
So what sort of stuff are you wearing then, like day to day, or are you not wearing stuff? You're like naked?
Yeah,
Just
normally
row naked
nude.
most of the time.
Yeah.
And did you have like bad weather suits or what?
We had foul weather kit, mate, which heat's the big problem on the mid-Atlantic.
Like it's hot or not hot?
No, like too hot, mate.
Too hot.
Like
Really?
disgustingly hot, yeah.
That's surprising.
At that time of year,
Especially when you get close to the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck. So how did he keep rowing if his arse was like tearing open?
Just through grizz.
For the last few weeks, like he'd get on the oars. For the
Complete
first few minutes,
determination.
he was just screaming in agony, mate. Because me and Will used to live in the same cabin, and I'd swap with Will, and fuck, it was hard to listen to, mate. Like it was really, really hard to listen to.
Jesus. Did you get anything like that? Or was it just him?
The general state of my ass was never that bad, but at one point I was rowing and I don't know, it felt like I was rowing on a pea, right? Like the princess in the pea. I can feel a fucking pea underneath my ass. And I know I think this was like fucking midnight, and we had the nav light on. I was like, Nutty, have a look at my ass, and he was like, yeah, sound. And he was like, no, it looks sound, it looks fine. But over the course of 36 hours, it grew to the size and shape and colour of a plum growing in my ass. And then Nutty had to do some weird surgery on it. So on our off period, Nutty was in the rear cabin at the time, so I came into the rear cabin, and I was lying in like some weird fucking missionary position with my legs on the ceiling. and thank God the sea was pretty calm at the time.
Yeah.
And then Nutty got his he was actually quite professional, like sanitised his hands with alcohol, got some gloves on, and got a scalpel out. yeah. And he had to cut this fucking thing out, but it wasn't easy to cut out.
It was,
I don't know, but
it was like
probably a cyst, mate, I'd say.
When I put the first incision into this, just to go with cyst or whatever it was, there's just sort of brown, oozy, pussy thing come out immediately, and that it was released, wasn't it? Like it was like fuck for that. But then the most painful part for him was actually trying to squeeze the rest of the gunk out.
Because most of the gunk inside, it was of a like a plasticine consistency.
Yeah.
Like it didn't just squeeze out, so we really had to fucking squeeze the cunt, mate.
Yeah.
It was really painful. Like
Fucking hell.
So I was just doing it very tentatively, like a bit of cut at a time, because you don't want to go too deeply. Because I'm not a surgeon by any means, so you've got to be careful because you don't want to fucking go in too far. And then
I think
Jesus
without
Christ.
trying to sound too dramatic, I was just screaming at Nutty. I was like, Nutty, you can't just fucking cut it. Just get it fucking out there and just squeeze it. And I'm like, I started screaming in fucking pain, mate. While this fucking plasticine squeezed through a tiny little hole.
oh, mate.
Fuck me. And Jesus, yeah. Most people start watching this.
I got a photo of it actually, mate. If you want to see the lump after the podcast finished.
Yeah, I do actually, to be fair.
It's quite something to behold.
And so, like, obviously, would you say there was a period where you kind of, just got used to it, and it just became like the new normal, or did that never happen?
No, it happened, mate, for sure. So the first week and the last week, time slowed down. The first week you're getting used to it, the routine, and you're getting used to how it was living on those tight confines on the boat. And the last week you knew you were almost there and time slowed down again. And it was about the last 4 days, I think we got caught in some weird fucking back eddy.
Yeah.
So the ocean's got big currents in it, right? And sometimes the currents, say the prevailing current's going one way, for some weird reason there's like an eddy off the side of it. I mean, Nutty went from doing 10 miles in 3 hours to doing 3 miles in 3 hours.
Oh, mate.
Like between the 3 hours when the other two were rowing. And fuck me, it was honking, mate. Like I actually rang Chris on the sat phone. We never called anyone on the sat phone. We just texted them off it because texts were free. And we had like 90 minutes on there just in case of emergencies. We could call someone. And I was like, Chris, what the fuck's going on? I was like, nah, everything's sound. There's no, so on his weather projections, there was no reason that we should have been slowing down. And it was like, I don't know, maybe you guys are getting fatigued, I don't know what's happening. Like, and I was like, fuck, nah, mate, I don't feel that different 3 hours later than I felt before. I'm like, I'm not going from 10, I'm not going down in fucking to a third of my original performance over 3 hours. Like, and it was heartbreaking, mate. It felt like we were rowing through fucking toffee.
Yeah.
Jesus. And did you have, like, what sort of, like, technology did you have on board?
So we had
like trackers and shit.
So we had the Garmin, so you could it was a chart. It was on a tiny little screen. I remember sort of like maybe about a quarter way of the cross, I sort of like I pressed the zoom out button, and I pressed it again, and I pressed it again, and I pressed it. And I was like, "Fucking hell, I've got a long way to go!" Like until I could see Barbados, and we were just over there, like, you know?
Yeah.
But we had a speaker system on board as well. That was good. But the problem with that is I didn't realise that Spotify signs you out after 2 weeks if you're not connected to the internet. So we had all these podcasts and all this music, and then and then after 2 weeks there was no music. But that was alright because just still chatted. Like,
yeah,
it was really, great. Actually, it worked out quite nicely.
It's a really interesting thing, actually, which I almost wouldn't have dared to have rowed for fucking 12 hours a day without listening to anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, you'd always turn something on before you rowed. But then when we were rowing in silence, I actually realised that the way your mind thinks, say you're listening to a podcast or a song, you know how fast someone talks, or you know how fast fucking how long a song is. Right? So 3 hours felt like 3 hours. But sometimes when we were rowing in silence, 3 hours felt like 30 minutes, mate.
Yeah.
Like time, the perception of time and space and everything just got really fucked, mate. When you're just in the middle of the fucking ocean for days.
Yeah, that was strange. I'd
probably always recommend anyone to row in silence from here on forwards, mate. So I was
just some funny conversations as well. But
so everything after 2 weeks was in silence, other than speaking. Fuck.
Nah. Apart from Will had one book actually.
Oh yeah,
I can't remember what the fuck was that. It was like the Art of Seduction or something.
Yeah, it was self-help book or something like that.
Yeah, it was like some weird fucking. Do you remember The Game by Neil Strauss?
Yeah.
It was something
something
like that, mate. We were just listening to that once, right in the middle of the ocean.
It's quite
Jesus
funny.
Christ.
In fact, it is quite an interesting one. So we were listening to a podcast, and it was about space, and we were rowing during the night. And then all of a sudden we had a meteor shower, and it was incredible. Like, I've never seen anything like that before. And one meteor came down quite close, I'd say, and it lit up like a couple of grid squares of the water. And it was like a bright greenish colour, wasn't it? That was incredible. That.
Fuck. Yeah,
that was one of the most famous Joe Rogan podcasts, mate.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the fucking dude's called now.
He used to be in
Blur. He prophesized
Blur.
He prophesized the end of the world.
Oh, is he? What's he called?
Does lots of TV shows.
Yeah, he looks a bit like a paedophile. Is it him, Brian Cox?
Brian Cox, yeah, that's it.
No, this wasn't the Brian Cox one, mate. It was some dude that prophesized. So he believed there were civilizations before.
Oh, was it? Yeah. No, I know his name. What's he called? He's got a really soothing voice. What's he called? I don't know what he's called. I know the bloke. He's got glasses. Is it him? Is it the one that talks about like ancient civilizations?
Yes,
He talks about he's on about, he had his mate on the podcast as well. There's like huge glacier flows coming down from Alaska or something, and there's a huge fucking end of civilization prophecy or something.
What's he called? Yeah, I know who you mean. Yeah.
Fuck it.
It's like
He's going to make such shit
deep.
listening. Everyone's going to be like, what the fuck are you cunts on about?
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. What's he called? Right, yeah, so we found the name of the podcast Don. It's Graham Hancock. Fucking very soothing voice. Don that talks about the mad like ancient civilizations and shit. So
He loves hallucinogenics and pre-civilization theories.
Elaborate. Yeah, fuck, no, he's an interesting Don.
So yeah, we was already fucking talking about this before we paused, but we were listening to this podcast anyway. And then, yeah, it was a really clear night, and some weird fucking meteor shower started happening, and I started getting creeped the fuck out. And I was like, we were listening to this shit, and I was like, Nutty, no, can we do you mind if we turn this shit off? Like, and then I was like, yeah, thank God. I didn't want to say it, like, so yeah, we turned that off because you feel a bit isolated out there, you know.
Yeah, fuck. So
open to the. You're so open to the elements and so close to the water that you see all sorts of things in the water. You know, there was one time we were getting closer to Barbados, and still not sure what it is, but there were just like lights coming up from the water. I don't know how deep they were, but they were like electric blue lights, and they go on, and then they go off again, and then it would be over there, and then there'd be a few more over there, and a few more over there, and they're all around us.
So to give a little bit of context to this, we'd already rode through like some pretty serious patches of bioluminescence, which was amazing. And then, but at this point, some of them were like hundreds of meters. I don't know. I can't obviously tell how deep they were.
Oh, yeah.
It was like someone flicked on a really bright blue light, like just on and off straight away, like flicked it on and off, and we were just rowing through this weird stuff. And I think that his missus kind of explained it to us, but I've forgotten it now.
Yeah, it was. It's a specific fish, I think it is. I'd have to write a blue sapphire, maybe blue sapphire fish. Quite rare. If it is even that. I described it to her, and that was the best answer she could give me.
what's a fish that like produce some
electric blue
mad
light. But like as in a flash, like putting on a torch and then switching it off.
Some of them were at surface level, and some of them were like really far down, like illuminated a whole load of sea for a brief matter of time.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. So you mentioned to me before something to do with, I think you said you saw there was a blue whale that was following the boat?
No, mate, it wasn't a blue whale. It was
sharks? Or both?
We only saw two sharks in the whole crossing.
Yeah.
Which was hours after leaving Gran Canaria. We had two sharks circling the boat, which is
that was it, yeah. I remember
a bit ominous,
that.
mate. Mm-hmm. Then the storm hit, so yeah, it was an ominous thing before the storm. But we had an adolescent male fin whale following us for 3 days.
How big are they?
About twice the length of the boat, so like 14 metres, I'd guess.
Yeah.
You could literally see it beside the boat, or what?
No, not like when our oars were going in, the side of the whale was surfacing, because it never surfaced for long. It just surfaced, blow, and then sink again. But they were like inches away from where it was really. The whale was really fucking aware of its own fucking size and shape and where it was coming up. But I didn't like the whale either, but everyone else did.
I thought it was amazing.
I was scared of the whale.
You could hear it. So
He only
came close at night, and then we were on the shift, weren't we, when he first turned up? And in the distance, we just heard the noise of the whale.
No, what did the whale sound like?
And he fucking come up like that, and then he just got closer and closer and closer until we could smell his breath.
So we all said to each other when we were rowing, if there's anything worth seeing, just it don't matter how fucking tired I am, I want to fucking see it. So we kept hearing this fucking whale coming up, and then by this time we were pretty sure it was a whale because it was pretty next to us and there was a bit of a splash, and I was like, bang bang, Junior, come up, there's a whale, and he's like, fuck off. And then when it happened, the whale was pretty much next to us by that point. And I'm like, yeah, that's definitely a whale. And then when it was like twilight in the morning and twilight in the evening and fucking sunrise in the morning, the whale would still be near us. Then in the day we'd spot it like fucking hundreds of meters away from the boat. But every night it'd just swim next to us all the time for about 3 days, mate.
It was really calm that time as well. Like the water, there was no storms or anything like that. It was just incredibly calm. Very, very strange sensation.
It's like rowing for a mill pond. That's another thing that fucking creeps me out.
That was strange, that.
Because when it's rough, all you're caring about is just fucking rowing and getting wet, and you're just in the moment. But when it's calm like that, and you're just rowing for 3 hours through fucking a mill pond.
A mill pond, what's that?
Like it's as calm as a mill pond.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like it's like flat calm, mate.
Yeah.
It's weird, like really. That's when your mind just runs away with you. Like you actually realise you're in the middle of fucking.
You are thousands of
You're in
miles
the middle
away
of the
from
Atlantic
everyone.
Ocean, like
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck. Did it become like a meditative experience? Especially after the Spotify account stopped working.
Yeah, it was. It was a good time for introspective thoughts and just chewing the fat as well. Right. It was great for that.
I would have loved to have actually recorded our
A podcast for 49 days.
not even a podcast, mate. I'd just love someone to record some of our weirdest conversations. Like we were talking some shit, mate. Like, do you know what I mean? Conversation runs out after a week, and you got 6 more weeks. We're just talking shit. Like, absolutely, like didn't even make sense, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck.
Nutty, tell them the story when that wave washed over us, mate. When me and you were on
Oh, what the big one?
when we were in a rough patch, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to get onto that, yeah.
Yeah,
What was
so
that like?
it was fairly. It was like there was a bit of waves, but there wasn't that many. But we were rowing along, and this monstrous one came over, and I just saw like the white, and I was like, "Brucey, fucking hell!" and just went boom like that, and it was as if the boat had actually gone underneath the water. It was just. The wave come over the top of us.
We were fully. I'd say we were fully submerged. Like, obviously after something like that time, I'd say we were underwater for like 30 seconds. But that's bullshit. We were probably underwater for like 5 to 10 seconds. I'd say, like actually swimming. You know, like actually completely submerged. Then our heads started to come out with the white froth at the top. Those boats are extremely robust and extremely seaworthy. And we were surfing sideways down this fucking weird fucking wave for another good amount of time.
Are you like tied
Yeah,
onto
clipped
this?
in. There's what called jackstay. There's a piece of wire that's bolted into one part of the boat, and the wire runs all the way the length of the boat where the rowers are, and you've got your life jacket that you wear, and you just clip on, and you clip onto your life jacket, and you always
only have that when it's rough. Or like all the time.
Yeah. To be fair, mate, you get when it's you know when you need it and when you don't need it. Like
when it was like really
when
calm.
we started out, we were always wearing life jackets at night, and then the day we had a climbing harness that we just cut the leg loops off. We had like a waist strap, so we were always like strapped onto the boat, you know. But when it gets calm, and we were like fucking hell, lads were swimming 100 meters away from the fucking boat.
Yeah.
No,
Just in the middle
swimming?
of the fucking ocean, mate. Yeah, because every so often you have to So you have to swim underneath. You know, like when you're de-icing your car.
Yeah.
With the scraping tool, we had one of those on board. So every so often you have to swim underneath, and there's something called gooseneck barnacles, which like to grow on the bottom of fucking ships. And so you have to swim underneath, and you put a snorkel on and a fucking goggles, and you just scrape these cunts off, mate. And then it gives
really
you about an
affects
extra
the
fucking half a knot.
hydrodynamic way of the boat if there's too many barnacles on it and too much sea snacks growing underneath it.
Yeah, fuck. Yeah, to be fair, like I get pretty scared. I get scared going in the sea if it's like can't see the bottom.
Yeah, so do I. But I don't know. I didn't for some reason. When you're swimming underneath the boat and you look down, it's just like blue going to dark blue to black. It should be a terrifying thing, but it wasn't, mate. It was just like, oh, I'm just cleaning the fucking sea snacks off the bottom of the hull.
Yeah,
it's just it's incredibly deep. Right?
Did the Garmin or whatever it was tell you how deep it was?
No, the charts did though.
Like what, like tens of thousands of feet?
I don't even know. You have to fucking. Well, I guess anyone that cares about it that's listening can Google it themselves. How deep is the middle of the Atlantic?
It's 3 miles, I think, at one point.
At least 1 mile, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, I think its deepest is 3 miles deep.
Fucking hell.
At one point so we saw 3 boats on our crossing. 2 of them, all 3 of them by chance, obviously. 2 of them were sailing boats, and one of them was an oil tanker. But our horizon, when you're on the rowing boat, because you're that close to the water, your horizon's only about 4 miles away. But we saw one French racing yacht, I only telling this story because the crossing's meant to be unsupported, right? But we didn't do it in a record-breaking time, so I don't give a fuck about telling this story. So because this does count as support, even though it's not really support. So we were rowing across, and it was quite rough seas. Well, it was quite high seas. It wasn't like choppy seas. And the French fucking sailing boat, they lassoed like a carrier bag full of fucking beers around his head and released it. And then Will, I don't know how the fuck he did it. It defied fucking gravity. Just
go gadget arms, like.
It was like something out of a professional fucking baseball game, mate. This dude just fucking leant over and caught this shit. And so yeah, we had a couple of beers in the middle of the Atlantic, completely by chance. A boat fucking caught up for us. The other one was like a commercial sailing vessel where like the cruise people pay to do a certain leg of the journey. And it was full of fucking really fit Americans.
I couldn't believe it. Just scantily clad women just fucking going past us on this massive yacht. We were like, Shen.
In the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. Like, what?
Yeah, right.
Was that the best tasting beer you've ever had?
No, it wasn't actually.
Warm San Miguel.
No, it was horrible.
I hate San Miguel at the best of times.
Fair enough.
It wasn't very nice, was it?
I'm still drunk it, no?
Fucking hell, so did you end up fighting with each other then? Like 49 days, there must have been tension, or was there not?
Yeah, there was like points that we were just like angry with each other, but it never lasted more than the shift. You get up for the next shift and you'd be sound.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that got, even though we didn't know Will that well until the row. He's a really good guy, but you kind of expect that because he used to be in the Marines. All the lads that are in the Marines are used to working in close confines with each other and doing weird stuff, and this was more like a bit of a jolly than it was real hard work, if you know what I mean. Everyone was working for each other. No one really complained that much.
Yeah. And sleeping 3 hours, was that like, do you find you actually get enough sleep? Obviously 3 hours on, 3 hours off, but it's a bit of a weird routine.
I think you get used to it quite quickly. Like, what, 4 or 5 days? I think it is how long it normally takes someone to get used to a totally new routine like that, with that sort of like that broken sleep that you get. And when you do sleep, you sleep, like, except during the midday sun, because it gets hot in that cabin.
Yeah, if we were to do that again when it was calm, in the midday heat, I'd definitely break that down to like 1 hour on, 1 hour off. But that's just hindsight looking back if I was to ever do it again. At night, I'd probably put it up to 4 hours, mate.
Yeah.
Just get a nice bit of head down,
Yeah.
Jeez. And coming in the last week then, because I know one thing you mentioned before was that when you finally finished, you didn't want to get off. You didn't want to get out of the boat. Like, did it, like, why? Like, how was that? Because obviously most people would think you'd be so fucking desperate to finish.
Yeah, so I wasn't really sure how to answer that question when we talked about it earlier, but fuck. A lot of it, actually, when we were on the boat, like trying to remember it objectively, I actually didn't want it to finish. Because you're just used to that routine, living with the hombres. It's just like 4 of you guys against the world, and it's amazing, amazing feeling. I can't really describe that unless someone else knows what I'm talking about, right? But then actually thinking about it through hindsight, we had what I could only really describe as a hero's welcome into Barbados. Like, everyone was looking after us. We had a pretty luxurious welcome into Barbados from people that we didn't know, who found out about what we were doing, and I didn't feel like I deserved that. So I went from rowing like a semi-arduous routine across the Atlantic into a extremely luxurious life in Barbados. It was a really, really difficult transition between the two. The only thing that the 4 of us are certain about, we talked about this a lot when we were on Barbados, all we wanted to do was finish the ocean rowing boat and then not talk to any of our friends and family that came out to meet us. All 4 of us wanted to go to the most disgusting, dirtiest rum bar full of the most disgusting black strippers that we could find and black prostitutes, and just do some weird stuff and just actually decompress a little bit. And then, but yeah, so the first fucking 2 weeks we got into Barbados, we were getting invited to all these fancy dinner parties. We were like the fucking guests. Like if someone could have us at their fucking do. I don't know, it's like a bit of a fucking status thing for them and for us, you know? Like, look, we've got the Marines that have just rode the ocean in our house, and I was like, fuck. So, I just wasn't ready for that at all.
How long had you planned to stay in Barbados then? Initially, I've been there once. Fucking, very overpriced, I would say. Overpriced, but nice.
We didn't pay for a single thing for the first few weeks we were there, mate.
Yeah, geez, I can imagine. But like, how long had you planned a certain time? Or was it literally like...
We didn't.
Get there and just see what happens.
So we planned. We'd done all this fucking stuff getting the boat to the start line. We got on the boat, mate, and we just fucking all we did was think we were gonna get to Barbados, because once we're there, you know, we've done it. We can plan about that afterwards. I had no time for any more headache before we started the road, mate. We just had. Luckily, being in the Marines is a nice thing. A lot of people. There's a big Royal Marines family, you know.
Yeah.
And some of the people found out what we were doing, and they have friends in Barbados who seriously looks after us, which I'm insanely grateful for that. Insanely grateful for that. But I just wasn't ready to be hit in the face by that as soon as I got out of the boat, you know. If we'd just had 2 days with the hombres, mate, 2 days with the lads, just fucking decompressing a little bit and actually talking about what we'd done and being honest with each other, it would have been a lot nicer.
And how long did you spend in Barbados in total then?
5 weeks.
5 great weeks. Yeah.
5 weeks. Was that a 5 week bender?
It was a 5 week bender, mate. Yeah.
Fucking hell.
That's all it was, a 5 week bender, mate. I was gonna say there's so many funny stories I have about that, which
can you share any of them?
You know, with me and Nutty still serving in the Royal Marines, and I don't think I can really share them. Needless to say, some fucking weird stuff happened down there.
Great, mate.
Yeah, fuck. That's probably like, that must be the biggest and weirdest contrast to go from like almost like a stoic like solitude in the ocean to just fucking sending it in Barbados.
Yeah.
But the life we had in Barbados, I'd never lived like that ever in my life. So I went from experiencing something I'd never experienced before, you know, like 7 weeks alone in a rowing boat with the hombres, to living like the life of a fucking emperor in Barbados.
We were living in what was it? Like a villa with its own pool. Amazing.
So there's a
estate.
dude that used to be in the army commandos called Tony Trulin. He's a fucking awesome guy.
Yeah, rose through the ranks.
He's got a business out in Barbados now looking after houses. And we ended up living in, what's the fucking Belgian manager's name? It's like Roberto Fernandez or some shit.
I know who you mean.
It was a football.
He used to be a manager. Of fucking was it
Tottenham?
Roberto Martinez?
Roberto Martinez. Anyway, anyone that's listening is going to know who I'm talking about.
I think I have an image of a guy in my head.
So we were living in his pad for a bit, and then some various other fucking people from around the UK who aren't famous, but they're pretty well to do. And then weird shit was happening. I didn't know what to do with myself, mate. So when we arrived in Barbados, we got arrested by the Coast Guard at gunpoint, and I didn't think they were the Coast Guard.
When the boat came in.
So we rode around the northern tip of Barbados, which are pretty treacherous waters. So you have to keep about a mile between, because you got the full force of the Atlantic flooding onto the east coast of Barbados, right? And so we had to keep about a mile between us and the northern point of Barbados and go all the way around. And I was looking for a specific buoy in the sea, which wasn't, the light on it wasn't working because we came in at night. And all four of us were awake on ship looking out, like listening out for the breaking waves and trying to keep it as close to the tip so we didn't add any extra mileage on. And do it safely, and we did that pretty well. So I was off shift then, me and Nutty started to get our heads back down. And then, I don't know, fucking some minutes later, I heard the guy like, bang, 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 Brucey, wake up. So I smashed the door open, and we were all naked on the boat. And there was a fucking like speedboat full of, which turned out to be Bajan Coast Guard, like the Barbados Coast Guard.
Massive spotlight.
And I didn't. But at the time, we were blinded by a spotlight. And these guys don't look like a Coast Guard, mate. They're like wearing half a fucking like military style like camouflage trousers and like their own fucking t-shirts, pointing like weird fucking
G36s, I think they were, or something like that, or MP5s, I think. I thought.
Yeah, like some weird fucking assault rifles in our face, and I was like, shit. Like the last thing I thought they were the Coast Guard, mate. But you know, you're pretty fatigued at the time, and it turned out they were. But, and then one of them fucking remembered me, and I was like, what the fuck? Because I was working out in Barbados a few years ago. And anyway, I didn't even fucking remember who this cunt was. And he was like, I know you, like shouting at me, still thinking we were some weird fucking criminal. I'm like, no, you don't, you can't. You don't fucking know me. I was getting angry at him as well. And he was like, yes, I do. And then named this name of this camp and this fucking weird stuff that was going on. And I was like, shit, yeah, I was there. Yeah, you do know me, mate.
Yeah. Well, you're doing the disaster relief for the Caribbean islands, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So did they think you were like pirates initially or what?
Well,
no, so the whole thing was because we just rode around the northern tip of. You always have, what's it fucking called, Nutty?
there's dangerous shoals around there.
No. What's the radar thing we have called?
Oh, the AIS.
Yeah, the AIS. So it's like automatic fucking information system or something. So anyone that appears on your radar, you can just click on it and it'll tell you like ocean rowing boat endurance or fucking cargo ship fucking whatever. And because the sea's a bit fucking choppy, they couldn't get like we weren't appearing on their radar, right? Because it's a really small fucking boat. And they were just watching our fucking navigation light come around the northern tip of Barbados. Really fucking slowly, I might add. It's not like we were actual drug smugglers. And then we turned I didn't. Will and Junior turned the navigation light off so they could see the shoreline, because it's a big white light. It fucks your night vision, right? So they were just trying to look at the shoreline to see where we were on the chart. Because Nutty put his fucking heel through the actual fucking GPS repeater on the deck. It's another fucking funny story. and then, so the second half of the road, we didn't have a GPS repeater on the upper deck. But yeah, they just turned off the light to see the shoreline. And then because they'd just seen a light go out, they thought it was like some weird drug smuggling fucking mission going on. They were going to drop some drugs off onto Barbados. Because I didn't actually realise, but after being there for a bit, it turns out it's a huge drug smuggling route out of like French Guyana, like, from going up to America through the Caribbean. And then they pulled us over.
Fuck. And then
there were four of us naked, and they wouldn't let us go because our intention was to go to Barbados, and we'd just been at sea for 7 weeks. And they didn't believe us. They didn't really fucking care about believing us.
Couldn't comprehend it.
And they were like, nope, you're going to have to go to Barbados and do the COVID test and go into like 2 weeks isolation or whatever it was at the height of the fucking COVID thing in Barbados. Because they didn't have any COVID cases on the island, so they didn't want to bring any on. So there was no lockdown on the island. Well, there was a semi-lockdown on the island. And then so we were like a mile away from where we were going to land anyway, and they towed us in. And then we got off the rowing boat for the first time. And like Will jumped off and like spider monkeyed across the fucking hard and almost fell in the water at the other side of the jetty. And I was like, fucking hell, what the fuck's up with him? So I jumped off and started on my hands and knees trying to crawl up the jetty. Like, I couldn't stand up, mate. And then Nutty did the same. And Junior was just laughing on the boat. It's still in pretty calm waters, like flat. I was like, how the fuck? And he was like, fucking hell, you guys are trying to take the piss out of me or something. Like, it's not that bad. And then he jumped off and fucking rolled around on the jetty, mate. And then there was a hose pipe on the jetty, and we were like, fuck. We hadn't had a proper fucking wash in 7 weeks, mate.
Yeah, shit.
A lot of fresh water, right?
And so we were all hosing each other down using a bit of shower gel that we had on the boat. Like, we were trying to hose each other down, like still completely fucking naked. And there's just these 4 fucking black guys from the Coast Guard. Like, what the fuck do we do with these cunts? Like,
they went and got us some Nature Valley oat bars and gave us them and some juice as well.
They were really nice to us in the end, but they just didn't know what to do with us because we couldn't stand up, mate, when we got off the boat.
What time of day was this when you arrived?
About 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
So there wasn't like people waiting for you or what?
No, there was. Loads of our friends and family had flown out to Barbados, but they were under fucking quarantine. So not quarantine, lockdown. Sorry. So like 7 in the morning, the curfew is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So they could go out between 7 in the morning at 9 at night or something. So then anyway, we just fucked around for a few hours, like had a wash and some Nature Valley oat bars and chewed the fat with the Coast Guard. And then rowed back out a mile, and then rowed in for the sake of the friends and family.
Oh, so did people come after you'd got there and you wanted to do the procession and rowing, or what?
No, they'd been there for a few days waiting for us to come in.
Yeah.
So why did you go out a mile and come back then?
Because
What's to do with that?
because the people on Barbados could only start doing their usual daily business at 7 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
There's a curfew.
So you were too early previously.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we were saying to each other, we'll just bob around in the west of the Isle of Barbados is pretty calm water, you know, because the Atlantic's coming from the east. So we thought we'd just bob around here and just mess around until they come in.
Fuck.
But yeah, we got nicked.
That's mad. So could you literally not stand when you got off?
Nah, couldn't.
Had you stood on the boat?
Yes, you stand on the boat because it's swaying all the time. You're so used to that motion. You get your sea legs basically.
Yeah.
And you're so used to that motion, and then when you step on dry land, it's as if you need to learn how to walk again. It's a very strange sensation. It's like we were crawling,
when we got off the
around.
boat, we had like someone lashed us up a huge fucking nice spread at Pier 1 for Port St. Charles in Barbados, mate. Like lovely fucking nice breakfast, everything there.
Full English breakfast.
And everyone kept saying to me, fucking hell, you drunk already? And I was like, no, not yet.
It's got nothing to do with the rum punch I've just been given.
Yeah.
It's like bouncing into pillars and stuff like that because your legs, like, don't know. You use a lot of mass in your legs because you're just not used to. You're not walking around like you would usually.
Yeah, fuck, true. Did eating feel weird and drinking? Like alcohol?
No.
Or you obviously
No,
already been eating.
It was
but
nice to have I think I had 2 full English breakfasts. I think you did as well, and probably about 4 pints of tea. and then started drinking. Well,
I didn't have any tea, but
then you
I
started
went straight on the fucking rum punch.
You were on the rum punch.
I was on the rum punch.
Started the 5-week bender straight away.
then-
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So you spent 7 weeks rowing and then 5 weeks drinking.
Yeah.
The contrast.
Yes, mate. To be honest with you, that's exactly what happened. Look.
That's mad. Jesus. What would you say was the single hardest moment of the row?
Getting the boat to the start line. Like fundraising and all that time beforehand to get the boat to the start line. I think that was the hardest thing.
A lot of the time, you have to remember, we had no experience. We were just fucking soldiers, mate. We had no experience in the world of business and fundraising or anything. And then now, obviously, after the row, we got a lot more opportunities, and I'm dealing with them a lot better and more intelligently. But we learned a lot of lessons. Well, like everyone does, you know. You have to start from somewhere, brother. You have to start from somewhere.
Yeah. What about actually in the row itself? Was there like a fuck this moment? I mean, I'm sure there was quite a few, but
you can't afford to have a fuck this moment,
No,
bro.
yeah.
The boat just has to keep moving. The greatest frustrations. What's the fucking hard? I'm still sorry. I'm just fucking talking shit. How do you answer that question?
Maybe it was when the boat speed dropped, and there was a day where the wind was against us, the current was against us, and we weren't going anywhere. We were going backwards. That was difficult. I don't know about you, Brucey, but I thought that was quite...
I remember, if you were talking about what I think you're talking about, we'd started so you have a parachute anchor. It's like a parachute you just chuck in the water, so if the wind's against you, you just stick a parachute in the water so you don't lose as much ground, and then you just have to wait out, mate. Because you're just wasting energy trying to row into it.
yeah.
That wasn't that bad for me, mate. I wasn't happy to not be rowing. He really struggled with that one, and we kept doing the same shift routine, so we'd have space in the cabins, you know. So I'd just be on deck, not rowing, and the same with Nutty for 3 hours. And I was like, "Fuck, should we just row?" And I'm like, "Nah, mate, we're not going to we're just wasting our energy." But that wasn't the hardest point for me.
Yeah, mad.
But yeah, that really fucked me. Nutty. I fucking hell, what was the hardest point for me? I definitely had ups and downs, man. I definitely had ups and downs. It's hard recounting it now. It all blurs into fucking one weird. This is like one ocean run. Yeah, done that. But it took fucking 7 weeks. Like, how do you remember the fucking?
Yeah, true. Long time. I guess all quite similar in a way. Do you think you'll ever do it again?
Yeah.
I intend to do it again.
Yeah.
When?
I was going to do it this year. But then we started messing around with the Antarctic survey and fucking weird fucking Arctic exploration, so... Should we talk about the Mission Atlantic for a second?
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I forgot what it was called. Yeah, so what is that?
So yeah, it was born of a... in a weird way. So me and Chris Martin, who helped us out loads, it was his boat, right, that we rode in, and me and him were driving up to Newark to Freight International to meet a guy called Moz, who's also an ocean rower. Oh, he's rode an ocean anyway. And on the drive down, me and Chris were really chatting, like, because he's got a couple of ocean rowing boats, and he used to run and own the Great Pacific Race. And he started speaking to me about the idea of having an ocean kayak race, which people have kayaks across the ocean in like some weird boats. They have a little fucking tube that you're sleeping on the end of the kayak. Anyway, if you're interested, Google it and have a look at it. But and he was saying to me, we'll have a fucking ocean kayak race. I was like, nah, because everyone that wants to kayak across an ocean, they don't care about an event. There's no market for having an ocean kayak race, right? Everyone does it by themselves. You're not going to be able to get a lot of fucking entrance into that. But being in the core, everyone that me and Nutty have spoken to is like, yeah, I'd love to row an ocean. I'd love to have rowed an ocean, which it turns out a lot of people talk a good ocean row, but they don't actually fucking deliver on it.
Yeah, can imagine.
But yeah, so I says to Chris, it'd be a lot easier if we start marketing the boats that you already have a military themed, so we get a lot of people from the military into these fucking boats. And he was like, yeah, sure. So this year we meant to have 5 boats, and 2 of them dropped out. We had a 2-para boat, which obviously they went to do the recall from Afghanistan, so they had to pull out. Then we've got 3 Marines boats in this year, and another boat which dropped out for other reasons. But next year we've got 4 boats. So then it came to the point where, like, shit, we're going to have to just give this event a formal name. And now it's called Mission Atlantic. So to backtrack a little bit, I was getting swamped down with loads of people talking a good ocean rowing, trying to find out, to create a bit of competition, between the Marines and the Paras, like an ancient rivalry, to get this event off the ground and to have something to make a good fucking story, that could last years, if you had a standing team between the Marines and the Paras. And then, yeah, we got messed around so much we had to start charging a deposit for every boat. So it's a £7,500 deposit for each boat that enters. Just as a little bit of skin on the table, so that then they're committed to actually. But it broke my heart when we made the decision to start charging a deposit. I wasn't about that shit, man. But then it showed me a different side of the fucking guys. Not all of them not all of their hearts are where their mouths are.
Yeah, true. Probably like a lot of things in life, to be fair. Fuck. Yeah, well, I think I said to you a few months ago, I'd row the Atlantic, but it's one thing saying it, no fucking thing doing it. So I reckon, well, I reckon I'd do it. I reckon I could do it, but it would take a lot, for sure.
Matty, one day, man, I'll do it with you, brother, if you want to do it.
I reckon I do want to do it, yeah, to be fair. It'd just be fucking, sounds like a bloody adventure, to be fair. Probably, it's easy to say that sat here on a fucking sofa, having had 2 beers and a red wine, but, jeez. I reckon I'd be more likely to do that than fucking run a marathon, which I used to speak about doing, so I feel like it's rowing, it's like water, I don't know, I feel like there's something there with it, but, fuck, I might have to get it arranged.
It's not an accident that we're sitting there in the living room looking at the Thames as we speak, is it? There's something that calls to you about from the water, isn't it?
Yeah.
What the fuck? There's a quote. I forgot who fucking read it. Who fucking said it, sorry. It's from that book that we just read, Reading the Water.
Reading the Water.
By someone fucking Goonie. I just remember the last name because it was weird. But yeah, there's a really good book that me and Nutty have just read anyway. And it says if there's magic in the world, it's in the water.
That's kind of
if
deep.
magic exists in the world, it comes from the water.
Yeah, jeez.
Something about the elements, isn't there? Fire and water and wind is sort of like you're at one with nature. Sounds quite Chad really, but I think it's quite levelling.
Yeah, it's very true. Like you always feel, well, I don't know. I always feel more peaceful if you go like listen to the sea or something.
Yeah, that's true.
Because like the whole world's become. I guess this experience sounds like it's like the fucking opposite of what most people spend their days doing now, which is just, essentially glued to a screen, living these fake lives through social media and shit.
Yeah, I think people just need to connect with nature again.
But you just take it back to basics and do like fucking 4 blokes in a boat rowing over. Like you can't fake that shit.
Being in the Royal Marines feels like I'm living in a fake life.
Really, how so?
I don't know, man. A lot of people leave school and go to university, not for the sake of getting a degree, but just for the sake of putting real life off for a few more years. And I think I've done very well at doing that in the Royal Marines. I'm just putting real life off. I'm just delaying real life by doing this kind of stuff, mate.
but what is real life?
Good question. Yeah.
Because, I mean, I would say what you've done is a lot more substantial than what 99% of society do, which is just go and follow a path that they're not actually probably interested in. So putting real life off, what is that real life that you're putting off, do you think?
No, yeah, it's a good point, man. Really good point. How long can you make it last?
As in being in the Marines, doing this shit.
Yeah, it doesn't last forever, brother.
Well, I guess on that, one of the last questions then, you mentioned, like it's not this lifestyle in it forever, etc. What do you both see yourself doing next? Like, obviously there's potentially another ocean row on the books.
Arctic exploration as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going on the Arctic survey ship HMS Protector next year.
Antarctic survey.
Oh, Antarctica survey.
As someone pointed out to me fucking viciously the other day.
Oh, yeah.
One's got polar bears and the other one's got penguins.
Yeah. So we're going on the Royal Navy's Antarctica survey ship and going all the way down there. So that'll be a great experience. And we'll be attached to the Royal Marines Mountain Leader Troop. And yeah,
go and fuck around in the nether regions for a few years.
Yeah. So that'd be a great experience.
Yeah, so, definitely.
It's just like another feather to your cap, isn't it?
Yeah, I definitely think it sounds like a much more colourful, a life of many more experiences than most people have. Sat in the typical office, or I guess now home office fucking job, staring at a screen all day. So definitely not boring by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's the spice of life, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you mind if I fucking plug our fucking socials on there, do you, for Mission Atlantic?
Go for it.
I don't know if any of you care about this shit, but there's a page on Instagram called Mission_Atlantic, which is probably worth checking out. Anyway.
Yeah, sick. Anything else to plug?
Well, he's got pages on Facebook and that, but I'm not running those, so I can't remember. It's Mission Atlantic anyway.
Yeah, sick.
Check it out. If you genuinely, to anyone that's anyone that's listening to this, if you actually do feel like you want to row an ocean, go on Mission_Atlantic on Instagram and drop us a DM. And we'll talk from there. Can answer you any questions.
Yeah. Sick. Right, well, yeah, Jesus Christ, it's a pretty sick story. This will be the second time I've said that I'm definitely interested in potentially doing something crazy like that. But I guess, like you said before, a lot of people can talk, the less people can actually do it. So we'll see if I follow through. But yeah, I think with that said, that's like a 2-hour pod pretty much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I think
It felt like 10 minutes.
just like the row.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah, fucking hell, a different pod to usual. An interesting story. 2 guests, mad shit.
Massive thanks. I genuinely appreciate the invite, brother. It was nice, mate.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you on.
It's great to catch up with you as well, man. It's been a while.
As always. Yeah, if you liked it, drop us a subscribe. Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, which is where most people watch this shit. Share it around. New shit coming every week. I guess this started as like an entrepreneurial podcast. I mean, well, I say it started like it was 2 years ago, like 5 weeks ago. But yeah, the whole premise of this has always just been to get interesting people on and just sit down and talk shit and be honest and raw about shit for like 90 minutes, 2 hours. So I think this was one of those good episodes where we did that. So hope you enjoyed, and yeah, share it with a friend if you think they're interested, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers for watching. Peace.